So this is Don Cameron. I'm a member of Golden United, and I appreciate you all participating in our webinar today. On the screen, hopefully you can see some suggested guidelines so that we can be efficient with our hour of time. Unless you're a presenter, we're going to have you queue up questions in the chat, and we'll look at those later and get to those during the Q&A. Or when we're doing the Q&A, you could unmute, but otherwise, if you could be muted, that would be great. And also because it's a webinar and not really a meeting where we're trying to meet face-to-face and interact that much, if you stop your video, it might be less distracting. So thank you. I see most people have done that. And as I said, use chat to bring up questions, and that should be on your toolbar near the end if you're a regular presenter or participant. If you use speaker view, then you'll see their desktop, and they might be iconified in the corner when they're showing video. And we will be recording this, so hopefully it goes well. And the presentations will all be available online later. This link will become active, and we'll post that on Golden United website and share it around as best we can. So with that, I want to turn the agenda over to JJ Trout. She's District 1 Golden City Councilor, and she's also a Golden United member, and she's going to introduce this webinar.
Great, thanks, Don. And I don't know if you want to click present on your screen so that we can see the entire, like the slide as your entire screen.
Sure.
Great. Hello, everyone. Yes, my name is JJ Trout. I've been a city councilor in Golden since January, so I picked a really fun time to start leading in local politics. But I've been involved with Golden for several years in many ways, one of which has been working with Golden United. Golden United was formed in 2017 out of the desire of Ron Benoff and neighbors to bring Golden together to find common ground and strengthen the community. They started with dinner events, they've done political candidate forums and rallies, and they have a housing task force to improve access to workforce housing while preserving Golden's small town charm. Really, Golden United adapts to the needs of the community, and we're seeing that in full force with these COVID responses. Golden United is doing virtual sessions to help folks stay healthy and connected, and they're helping businesses with this webinar. From the beginning, Golden United's response to help businesses has been in coordination with the city, with the Civic Foundation, Chamber of Commerce, and other organizations, and many, many individuals. So a huge thank you to everyone who came together to make this happen. Everybody understands the importance of small local businesses to our vibrant community at every level. For example, when this pandemic started and we recognized businesses would be affected, our mayor, Laura Weinberg, posed the question, how can we help people in Golden while helping our Golden businesses? And hence, Be Golden was formed. Be Golden is a program where folks can donate money, then Be Golden buys meals from local restaurants and gives those meals away to folks in Golden who need food. This program shows the creativity, resiliency, and collaboration of Golden, just as Golden United does. It's an unprecedented and challenging time right now, but a powerful culture of mutual support and aid has emerged in the face of this crisis. It's shown us that government, community groups, and the businesses can quickly shift gears to tackle dangerous threats. And if we keep working together, we'll come out on the other side even more resilient, even stronger, and in even more vibrant community. With all that said, I'll say thank you one more time to all the folks coming together to make Golden strong, especially those making this webinar happen. And I will let you know that we've got 4 presenters who are going to present for 10 minutes each. Marie Drake from Drake Law Firm, who's presenting on the Business Owner's Guide to Surviving COVID-19. Diana Murray, ASAP Accounting and Payroll, who's going to talk about employer record keeping and reporting. Annie Hammond from Sunflower Bank, talking about COVID-19 banking support. And Robin, our own Robin Fleshman from the City of Golden, who's going to talk about COVID-19 Business Recovery Loan Program. Thank you again to everyone, and I will hand it off to Marie.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Marie Drake. I own the Drake Law Firm over on 22nd and 4th in Golden. And a quick second of background here. I started practicing law in 1999. I was a paralegal for 7 years in New York City, although I grew up in Crested Butte. And I landed in Golden in 1999 and started my legal career as an attorney here. And I opened my own firm in 2011 and relocated it from Lodo to Golden in 2014, which is a really wonderful decision. So First, I need to say that the PowerPoint materials contain an enormous amount of technical and legal information, and I'm not going to be able to get through it. And I'm happy to email this document to anybody who wants it. So just send me an email at Marie at the Drake Law Firm, and I'll send you the PowerPoint so you have all of the information. What I'm going to talk about, and I practice business law, is the CARES Act. That's the Coronavirus Aid, Relief, and Economic Security Act. It's a federal law that was passed by Congress and signed into law by the president in March. There's been a couple of iterations and tranches of money put into this, and the whole purpose of it is to help small businesses keep workers employed during the pandemic and this economic downturn. The first thing that I want to talk about is what...
Marie, do you want me to run your slides? Because right now we're looking at you, and I took your, but I could run your slides.
That would be great. Yeah, don't look at me, look at the slides, please.
Okay, great.
But I can't walk and chew gum either. So yes, thank you for your help.
All right.
The first loan we'll talk about is the Payroll Protection Program loan. Short, I call that PPP for short, and so does everybody else. We'll also be talking about a couple of other ones, but first things first, this is a loan that has to be utilized within 8 weeks of disbursement. And by the way, the laws around this and the interim final rules being issued around this CARES Act it was changing daily for a while in March, and now we just got a new interim final rule issued, I think 2 days ago, maybe it was Monday. And so these are moving targets. There's no guarantee of forgiveness on this PPP, but know that if you apply for it, you have to meet certain criteria. You have to be a company with 500 employees or less, and you have to meet some other SBA requirements. You can also be a sole proprietor, and you can be an independent contractor. You can be a self-employed tradesman or tradeswoman, a tribal business concern, or a veterans organization. The other people who could be eligible for this loan are, it could be in the hospitality business or food services business with 500 employees per physical location. And you can also be a franchise. So one of the things that I've told my clients and colleagues about is that before you apply for the PPP, look hard at your financial documents, because all of the information that you submit is essentially going to be public record, meaning your income statements, your profit and loss, your balance sheets. These documents will be public record. And so what you have to understand is that, say you've had a remarkable 5 years of just unbelievable profit and you're sitting pretty. Think very hard about whether or not you want to apply for this. I'm not saying you shouldn't, and we want to keep as many employees employed as we can. Everybody does. But know that this is public record, and so the last thing you want to have happen is what happened with Ruth Chris Steakhouse or the Harvard Endowment, which is a $43 billion endowment, or Steak and Shake. Those were highly profitable companies that took this money and have returned it due to a public backlash after their public records disclosed that maybe they didn't need it. So just keep that in mind. I mean, most of the businesses I deal with as an attorney are not in the same place as, say, the Harvard Endowment. So but it's just a warning that it's best to really take a hard look at this and understand, if you have a privately held company and you value your privacy, applying for these funds will invade it. There's no guarantee of forgiveness for the PPP, but best practices, and Annie Hammond can correct me if I'm wrong, but I have told people to take whatever money they're getting from the government, open a separate bank account and almost treat it like a trust account. And for you non-lawyers, that just means treat it in the separate bank account with just perfect accounting, because you're going to be presenting this for forgiveness, and you have to have that 75% going to payroll or payroll-like compensation and 25% to everything else. And you want to keep those ratios perfect. And then let's see, what else? I'm looking at my own slides. Oh, the PPP can, the thing about the PPP that's a drawback, if it's not forgiven, then it's a loan that has to be paid back within 24 months, has a balloon at 24 months. And the interest rate is low, but you know, you would have to be planning for that. So just keep that in mind. There's more details to it, but I'm skimming a little bit. The next loan that I want to talk about is the economic, going back and forth. Okay, next loan I want to talk about is the SBA 7B Economic Injury Disaster Loan. I call that the EIDL loan. That was the slide you were on before.
It was? Okay.
At any rate.
I'm sorry, I want to catch up to where you want me to be.
Okay. Yeah, let's go to the EIDL loan. Let's see that.
This one, you just said SB 7B. Okay.
The 7B. So the EIDL loan, you know, the maximum amount of the loan is $2 million. The interest rate is under 4%, and you can amortize that over 30 years. Now, the first 10,000 of that can be a grant if you have 10 employees. They give you $1,000 per employee, and it's similar to PPP in that it can be used for payroll and sick leave and increased costs related to COVID and that sort of thing. At any rate, it's definitely an option, and it's one of the loans that is available under the CARES Act. Let's see.
About 3-minute warning.
Oh, 3-minute warning. Okay. Well, there's a massive amount of material in here, like I said, but I just wanted to be as thorough as possible. And anyone on this call, on this Zoom meeting, is welcome to contact me, and I'll give you a free consult if you have questions on these loan programs. The other thing I want to say to anyone with a small business who's experiencing some stress during this time is we have this tunnel from February 15th to June 30th for these federal programs. And that is just one piece of this. But from everything that I read, and I think this is important to say, this is not something that ends June 30th. We're looking at a recession that will possibly be 18 to 24 months long. And what I want you, with all your entrepreneurial creativity and optimism, and I'm an optimist too, is to think about what you want your businesses to look like in 24 months. Like, how do you want to come through this? And what does that vision look like? And I think having that, even written down is a really good idea, because, the whole country is going through a tough time, and nobody is exempt from being affected by this in some way. And so, I look at what would I want my law firm to look like in 24 months? And, I have to think about, how do I be of maximum service to the most amount of people? Because it isn't about money. It's about getting through something that our grandparents and great-grandparents buckled down and got through, like the Depression and World War II. And it's about having a little grit, and it's about figuring out how to help the next person achieve whatever their vision is. So I encourage you to think in that way, not just in this tunnel of how can I get to June 30th, even if you're stressed, and I totally understand if you are, but think about this bigger picture if you can. We're entrepreneurs, and it helps to have a vision that goes out a few years. It's just something I want to encourage people to think about. So thank you.
Thank you. Are there any more slides that you want me to be sure people see and know is in here?
Well, there's another like 15 slides on the on this PowerPoint, and I include information on forgiveness, And I also include information on the family, the paid leave expansion, and employer tax relief. And so I do include more information on that, but we're not going to have time today. Otherwise, I would bore you and be here for like 2 hours, and everybody's going to want to go home and hate me. So let me know if you'd like a copy of this PowerPoint. I'm happy to send it out.
And I also have turned it into a PDF that I can send out to participants as well.
Okay, great. And I also have a sort of it's a little bit similar, but I have a business owner's guide to surviving COVID-19 that is a free guide that I put together that's like 37 pages long, but it's very detailed, and I'm happy to send that to anybody who wants it as well. Thank you.
Oh, super. All right, next up is Marie, and I think you were going to share your desktop and drive yourself. Is that right? I'm sorry, not Marie. Diana.
Yeah, that sounds great. I'll go ahead and share my screen once you stop sharing.
Great. All right, let me do so.
Awesome. Thanks everyone for coming here today, and it's always a little hard juggling presenters, and thanks Marie for your super consolidated presentation. I'm actually going to stop my video here because it distracts myself, but my name is Diana Murray, and I am with ASAP Accounting and Payroll. We are a golden payroll processing and bookkeeping service. We also have offices in Telluride, and I'm actually calling from our office in Southwest Colorado in Durango. So we provide payroll processing and bookkeeping services for over 900 clients from those 3 offices, and we currently have 30 professionals. So we deal with a lot of different shapes and sizes of different employers. And so today I wanted to talk about kind of 3 main areas, and that's really tapping into what records should you be keeping now in terms of a lot of the unknowns that are going on. So I'm going to talk a little bit about record keeping as it relates to the Family First Coronavirus Response Act. And I'm going to talk about record keeping as it relates to the Payroll Protection Program known as the PPP, as well as the liabilities as it relates to tax deferrals if you're taking advantage of any tax deferrals. Of course, I have a little bit of fine print on this, and so you can read that yourself. I won't read that aloud. So to dive right in here, the Families First Coronavirus Response Act is, you know, Marie went over a lot, and she has a lot in her details, but what I want to mainly focus on is the record keeping and documentation piece of it. And so, of course, the first thing I want to show is everyone should be displaying a new notice alongside their labor law poster. And this can be emailed directly to employees. So if you don't have that, there is ability to download it online. Don't get suckered by any of these people trying to sell you expensive labor law posters. Much of this information can be found online. So that's kind of the first thing I wanted to lead with in terms of a very important notice that you need to provide your staff regarding the FFCRA. So in terms of the FFCRA, this is related to the emergency paid sick leave, as well as the expansion of the FMLA. I won't go into too much detail on here because, again, I want to focus on the record keeping side of it. And so I'm going to kind of skip over these overview slides, but of course I might give a bit of tips in each one. So we have, again, the emergency sick leave and the expansion of FMLA. So in terms of, actually, let me go back one. In terms of the expansion of FMLA and the sick leave, what's important to know here is that you can actually stack them. And many people are already going through this now, but we could see a second round of a spread of the illness. And so you want to be sure you know these things, even if it might not apply right now. And so one of the things to note here is that you can stack the emergency paid sick leave with the expansion of FMLA. So the first 10 days can be the sick leave, and then you can move into the FMLA benefit. And it's also important to know that if you're a small employer with less than 25 employees, you're not obligated to reinstate an employee at the end of the leave. So if your operating conditions have changed as a result of COVID-19 and you're unable to reinstate that employee, that is okay if you have 25 employees or less. So in terms of the employer side of things, the employer credit, if you're a covered employer, you qualify for dollar reimbursement through tax credits for all qualifying wages paid under the FFCRA. Qualifying wages are those that are paid to an employee who takes leave under the Act for the qualifying reasons that are outlined. Of course, that's up to the appropriate per diem and payment caps. So it's important to know and to track those caps. And those applicable tax credits also extend to the health insurance premium expense or any incurred expense to maintain health coverage. So it's important to know that as well. So think about these things as I touch upon this slide here, because this is where I'm going to spend my time as it relates to FFCRA. So in terms of the documentation that employers need to have as it relates to the employee and the personnel files. So you're going to want to have a request for leave documentation. So if the employer has documented the leave and has signed off with the employee on it, that would be one form of documentation to place in the personnel file. The other one, which I'm going to show a sample of, is a leave notice letter that is from the employee. And that's going to show some details, which I'll show here in a sec. And then the other thing you want to be sure and keep record of is the timesheet details. So the detail of the paid sick leave, the expanded FMLA or the sick, and those requested hours for each pay period. And so it's very important to keep those records. Now, an employee can work limited hours. They can work part-time to kind of supplement that 2/3 pay or the reduced pay under the FFCRA. So you really want to do a good job of tracking hours by the type of earnings. That's very important. In terms of the payroll record keeping side of it with the FFCRA, you'll want to work directly with your payroll provider. If that's ASAP, that's great. If it's not ASAP or you have an in-house bookkeeper, you'll really want to do a good job tracking this information. And so again, you're going to track the separate earnings under FFCRA, and you should even separate out this separate out the sick versus FMLA from the regular payroll earnings. So it's very important to kind of separate that out. Now, if you are working with an outsourced processor such as ASAP, it's really important to understand that payroll processors account for wages by pay period, where you need to be responsible for reporting that information by day so that those limits under the FFCRA are followed. So it's very important to work very closely with your payroll processor to make sure that those caps and per diems are met. In terms of the tax credit side of things, the payroll tax manager is really able to kind of track those tax credits, especially if you're outsourcing your payroll. But again, if you're not, if you're doing it in-house, you want to do a good job of tracking those tax credits, as those are going to be applied to your quarterly return, your 941 return. That's done at the end of the quarter. So in kind of in layman's terms, you're fronting the money as an employer with that expense, and then you're claiming that credit on your federal 941 return. This is a sample of a request sick leave notice under the FFCRA that an employee could provide to their employer. And you'll see, we see days here. We see a lot of details that we want to keep track of. So let's talk a little bit about record keeping as it relates to the PPP loan. I'm not going to go into too much details in terms of what's a qualified expense and what's not qualified. I will leave that to others. But what I want to touch on again is the record keeping piece of it. Now, this is an area where guidance is still being released. I joke about
3 minutes, supposedly.
Great. Okay. So in terms, I'll speed up a little bit here. So in terms of what you want to keep track of, again, the guidance has not necessarily been finalized. So this is our best guess at what you need to keep track of as it relates to proving for that forgiveness. Copies of payroll tax forms, copies of payroll reports for each pay period, documentation of retirement plan funding. You can see the list here, but it really is important to kind of keep track of this as you go, maybe even create a separate file. So I want to talk a little bit about tax deferrals, and these are, there's several different versions of tax deferrals out, and some may even be local too. But you want to track these taxes because they're still ultimately going to be due. So you should track these as liability in your accounting system. If you use QuickBooks, set up a liability account for each of the taxes that you plan on deferring, because ultimately at the end of the day, you are responsible for confirming that those tax payments are made accurately and on time. So you want to create a list of due dates. This is not your payroll processor's responsibility. This is not your CPA's responsibility. This is your responsibility. So do a good job of creating appropriate files and records and reminders to get you to keep track of that and keep it organized. We have put at ASAP, for example, as it relates to the PPP loan. This slide is a little bit out of order, but we've created an Excel workbook that has files that we can not only keep track of the amounts and understand how much we are going to be eligible to be forgiven, but it's also going to be a nice punch list to know what documents we need to keep track of as well. So think about creating a tool for yourself. Ultimately, at the end of the day, documentation and keeping organized records should be your best friend right now. You might have more time on your hands with less business or less foot traffic coming in your door. So take this time to really get organized. And if you're not an organized person, maybe one of your employees is, maybe you can seek help from an accountant, a CPA, an attorney, somebody that can really help you digest this information and keep organized. And lastly, kind of to conclude, we have a wealth of information on the Help Center on our website. Our website is businessasap.com, or you can go straight to our Help Center, which is support.businessasap.com, and we have a whole library of COVID-19 resources as it relates to all of the programs and relief programs, FAQs, unemployment, anything as it relates to being an employer. You'll find great resources on our website. With that, I think I'm good on time, so I'll turn it back over.
Thank you very much. And our next presenter is Annie, and Annie emailed me just before the meeting to say that she had a lot of overlap with Marie, so I don't know whether we'll have extra time right now. And Annie, you're going to want to turn that back over to Marie, or if you want to just take over the 10 minutes, but it's your floor. And do you want me to open up your document, the SBA CARES Act?
Sure, you can go ahead and post that. That'd be great.
All right, so I will share my desktop again and do so if I can figure out where my controls are. There we go. All right. So now we're looking
Thank you, Don.
Yeah.
So this is an 11-page deck that we were delivered by the U.S. Senate Committee as soon as the CARES Act was voted into law. And boy, I had to put on my study cap and review this and really figure out and put my arms around it, because I knew I would be getting a lot of phone calls. So I live in Golden. I've been in Golden for, we've lived here for 20 years. And I was previously with another financial institution, a larger bank, for 16 years, and have been with Sunflower for a little bit over a year. I love what I do, helping small businesses grow and helping them through their challenges and tribulations, which trials and tribulations, which, oh my gosh, the floodgates have opened. So I'm going to tell a little bit about my story. So on April 3rd, we opened up our portal to take PPP loans, and we're a $4 billion financial institution. By that following Tuesday at 10:51, we had to shut down our portal because we were at capacity. What does that mean? We had taken $2 billion worth of applications at that time, and we're a $4 billion bank. So imagine the floodgates opening. So by that following Wednesday, I was informed that I was going to be turned into an underwriter. And boy, keeping accurate records is paramount. I can't stress that enough. I know ASAP, she just had indicated that that is so important. So when I was turned into an underwriter, the bank's viewpoint was we have to do our due diligence and make sure that the reporting is accurate and make sure that the numbers are accurate and that they're not just asking for a $50,000 loan and can't justify it. So we took into account 2019 941s, and this is W-2 payroll. And with the W-2 payroll and those 941s, we also added back employer paid vacations, healthcare benefits, and employer contributions for retirement. Then we took that total amount, the 941s or the 940, which is the annual report for 2019, added all of that up, divided by 12, because that would be your monthly salary, and then multiplied it times that 2.5 to arrive at a loan amount. And I was so proud of the SBA because I've done a number of 7A loans, traditional SBA 7A loans. And when they came out with only 2 pages for this application, I was floored because I know what the paperwork normally looks like. So I was very proud that they were able to crank this out in such a timely fashion. I was also very proud of the bank because it was like building an airplane, and the airplane is on the runway ready to take off. Things were changing daily, hourly with the changes. So, but anyway, so I was turned into this underwriter. I was working 11-hour days, and I worked through Easter weekend because the timing of this was so crucial. Once we got an approval on a PPP loan, that loan has to be documented and funded in a 10-day window. And being a smaller financial institution, we had people that were all of a sudden maybe a commercial banker, and they're doing documentation, or it was everybody pulled together to get this job done. And it was totally amazing. So I bet you all remember when a hailstorm came through Golden, what was it, 3 years ago on May 8th. Do you remember when the SBA had boots on the ground people set up at the courthouse, and they were offering the economic injury disaster loans? And these are these loans that Marie spoke to, and it's up to $2 million. The rate is at a 3.75%, and they're 30-year loans. You would go directly to the SBA for that type of a loan.
About 3 minutes.
Okay. I got a lot of questions from folks once we were documenting these PPP loans, and they had actually applied for the $10,000 EIDL grant out there. And the rule of thumb was they could not have received the grant by April 3rd when they're filling out the application. And naturally they hadn't. So if they received the PPP loan and the $10,000 grant, the rule is just don't use them for the same thing. And I can't stress enough, if you do have a PPP loan, keep your records straight. Use 75 to 80% for payroll for retention of employees, or if you're a single member LLC, make sure you're paying yourself W-2 with all of that money so that can be documented. My gut check is, and we have not received any guidance from the Treasury or the SBA on how we are going to document forgiveness, but that is going to be done through the lender. So hello, here's round 2 for Annie Hammond, I think. But anyway, Keep those records straight, and gut check is, I think we're gonna look at second quarter 941s and wanna see very specific payroll reporting on employer paid vacation, healthcare benefits, and retirement funding. So hopefully that helps, and it's been a pleasure. And I think of myself as a resource in the community. If I can help, reach out to me. I'd be more than happy to refer you to folks that I know. That I do know that Colorado Lending Source is a nonprofit in the community. It's a microlender downtown. They are still accepting PPP applications. So there still are some resources out there. And if you are a sole prop, be prepared to supply your tax return to where we can see, I believe it's line 29 on the Schedule C that reports the wages that you paid yourself in 2019. So thank you.
Well, that was really specific information, and we had some sole props on here, so I hope that they got some useful information. Oh, I am muted here. Oh, I'm not muted. Next up, from our own city of Golden, Robin Fleischman, Economic Development, not sure her title, superstar.
Thank you.
Do you want me to show your PowerPoint, or do you want to bring it up and share your desktop?
Would you do that? I'd appreciate the help, Don, if you would just show it. It's just one page.
Sure. And do you want me to go to the associated link, or just leave it on that page?
That would be great if you could go to the link.
All right. I will once again share. All right. So a couple of clicks here. Why don't we talk to this first slide when it opens?
Okay. So I'll start talking while you're clicking.
Yeah,
so the City of Golden, I'm an economic development specialist with the City of Golden Community and Economic Development Department. And so we view our assistance as a complement to the types of assistance from PPP, Colorado Lending Source. When I said PPP, I really meant SBA, Colorado Lending Source, and a whole bunch of other funders. So very specifically, there are three things that we're offering right now, although one ends today. So the top one is the COVID-19 Business Recovery Loans, and that is a loan program that is taking applications right now through the end of the day on Tuesday, May 5th. And these are for small, independently owned and franchised businesses in Golden that have been impacted. And we realize everybody's been impacted, but there are some that really are more impacted in some way. So we're looking for eligible businesses like retail, food service, lodging, personal service, independently owned businesses. We are not going to be funding corporately owned businesses or big box stores, home businesses, home-based businesses, or short-term rentals. The loans are going to range from a few $1,000s to up to $30,000, and it's partly a percentage of the either sales taxes that you paid to the city in 2019 or your revenues in 2019 if you are not a sales tax business, so if you're like a personal service provider. You can see on this page that Don is showing you, there's an initial screening criteria and sort of a checklist, how long you've been in business. There are certain points associated, whether or not you were forced to close or chose to close. And then there is a program advisory committee that'll be looking at all of the loans at the same time and giving them equal consideration using the scoring criteria and other information to make loans. We have $1 million that are being provided from the Urban Renewal Authority and the Downtown Development Authority, which typically may only invest in their geographic areas, but because this is a loan to the city and the money is expected to be repaid, we're able to deploy this money throughout the city. So I advise folks that are listening to read the information on the page and decide whether or not they would like to apply. And again, I want to say it is not first come, first serve. So anybody who applied last week is getting the same consideration as if they apply on Tuesday the 5th. We're working with OnTap Credit Union, a local financial institution, to distribute and service the loan funds. So that's the COVID-19 Business Recovery Loan Program. Separately, the city is providing some sales tax payment plans for sales taxpayers. So if you need some help in that regard, we go on this page that Don just showed you and contact the finance department directly, and they can work with you. The last item that we are providing directly closes today, and that is very specifically for downtown businesses that were shut down due to state or county order for social distancing. So for those businesses, we are able to provide up to 50% of their rent or mortgage payment up to a maximum of $2,000. So we've approved something like, I don't know, I have to look at my spreadsheet, 90 odd grants so far for like 130,000 total, and that's been very well received and for those businesses. Something else I want to let you know is that on that link that Don was showing you at the bottom, we also show some resources that are available through Jefferson County Economic Development Corporation, the state of Colorado, especially the Jeffco EDC link, which is at the bottom or near the bottom, lists a whole other host of alternative funding sources. I urge you, if you look on right there, Jefferson County, you click on Jeffco EDC COVID-19 page, that opens into a whole list of other alternative funders that are working throughout the state. It could be like the James Beard Foundation if you're a restaurant, or as Annie, I think Annie mentioned the Colorado Lending Sources, the Colorado Enterprise Fund. There's a whole list. So we urge you to, as I think Marie said and Diana, seek out every possible type of funding, apply for everything. Because it's a long haul. I agree with the advice to look at your business not only in the short term, but where you want it to be in 12 months and 24 months, knowing that things are very different. And this is a process. So that's what I have to say, and I'd be happy to answer questions along with all the other presenters.
Great, so let me get back to this so we can move on to questions. Annie, I'm going to ask for your help since I've got my screen up to look at the chat and queue up questions. The only one I can remember off the top of my head was somebody at the beginning had said they're a sole proprietor. Are they eligible for PPP?
Yes. So we had 2 questions come through the chat so far, and I encourage everybody, if you have additional questions, to go ahead and add them to the chat so that we can address them. But the first one was from Betsy Brooks, and she said, I own a flower business and 2 short-term rentals, no employees. Do I qualify for PPP?
I can take that one. So,
you know what I think I want to do, so this is a little bit more collegial. I'm going to stop my share, and if people want to turn on their video, then we can have more of a conversation. So let me do that. But go ahead.
So I can go ahead and take that one, if I may.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay, so it depends on how she pays herself. Does she file a Schedule C with her 1040? If so, the guideline would be to take line, I believe it's line 29, from that 2019 tax return, divide that by 12, multiply it by 2.5. And then that would be the loan that she could apply for. So yes, sole props and 1099s can do that, but they have to provide their tax returns.
All right, thank you. And Annie, do you have the other question queued up?
Yeah, the next question was from Tiffany Hurst, and it was, is the FFCRA only for companies that have over 50 employees?
I'm happy to take that one. And I did respond to her directly as well, but the FFCRA requires all employers with less than 500 employees. So the short answer is yes. So the 50 mark does not apply when it comes to the FFCRA. It's any employer with 500 or less employees.
Thank you.
Wonderful. We had another question from Jerry Walsh, and it was about getting copies of the slides and recorded presentations, and we will go ahead and send those out after this session.
And they will go to all participants?
And you're welcome to email me. I'll send you my business guide and my in my PowerPoint presentation to anybody. And I put my email in the chat.
Thank you.
I will do that as well. I'd be more than happy to offer my slide deck to anybody, and I'll go ahead and put my email in the chat. One other thing I wanted to add was if you owe money to a bank and maybe you're closed, you're a dentist office and you've been closed, go to the bank and ask for a deferment, because they'll definitely have something in place for COVID.
And I've been telling all of my landlord clients to do the same. Go call your mortgage lenders if you have a mortgage on your properties and talk with them. My experience so far is that every mortgage company is working with landlords who request a deferment. So yeah, I concur with Annie 100%.
To that end, last week, the City of Golden City Council passed a resolution urging financial institutions, really urging everybody in the chain, the tenant, the landlord or lender, the financial institution, the investors in the financial institution. I mean, everyone everywhere is asking people to work together and so forth. We know that through the rent assistance program that we've heard that some landlords or lenders a few have not been open to that, but we're really urging everyone to work together, because this is a long-term thing. And we really don't want in downtown Golden to have a lot of empty storefronts. So it seems to us that working together is really the best solution.
And I rent office space in my little building on 22nd and Ford. And because I had an SBA 7A loan in order to buy this place, I was given 6 months of principal and interest without even asking. So I told my tenant, who's also my sister, you know, I'm not going to charge you rent when I don't have to pay. It's not fair. So it was, you know, it's not just because she's my sister. It's also because any law firm that was renting from me in this building, I would have done the same thing. It's just the right thing to do. But also, I don't want to be a profiteer in the middle of a pandemic. I know some people, you know, if their mortgage companies aren't working with them, and I do have some landlord clients where the mortgage companies have not worked with them, unfortunately, they're in a tough situation with their tenants. So, you know, hopefully people will cooperate, because like I said in my presentation, the whole country needs to come together on this for this period of time.
Hey, Marie, that's a really good point. So if anybody does have an existing 7A SBA loan out there, the deferment is a 6-month deferment. And then also one thing about the PPP loans is that the first payment is not due until 7 months out from the date of the note. So most of the ones that I closed last week are not going to have a first payment if the loan has not been forgiven until November of this year. And there's no personal guarantees and no SBA fees.
Robin, do you want to mention right in that same context that the Golden business loan is forgiven if you pay the full amount before January 1st?
Well, it's not forgiven. I would say that all the loans will start on January 1st. So I wouldn't use the forgiven, but for example, if you get a loan from us and are able to repay it in full before January 1st, you won't accrue any interest or anything like that. So It could be some very low cost or free money, but I wouldn't use the term forgiven.
Yeah, sorry.
Because you do have to repay it.
Right, but you will be giving out those loans starting after May 5th.
Yes, not like the day after. We have an underwriting process, and then just so people know, if you're interested in applying, when I say that means the program advisory committee makes a provisional approval, we will then send out an email to the borrower and also to ONTAP, because the borrower will need to set up an account with ONTAP, and then the borrower will need to provide information to ONTAP Credit Union to open up their account and do all that, and that will take some few days to do. So we are hoping that 2 weeks or so after approval, money is out there, but you don't repay principal or interest until January 1st of 2021.
Great.
We had another question from Vanessa Ingalls. She said, what 8 weeks are they looking at for forgiveness of the PPP? Is it payrolls paid during the 8 weeks following when the money has been received?
I can take that one. And yes, it is. So when you signed your note, it is, and the funds are deposited into your account. It's an 8-week period after that time that you need to use 75 to 80% for payroll purposes. The remainder can be used for utilities, for commercial mortgage payment, or rent payments.
But just to be clear, if somebody paid past due salaries that they were not able to pay, but they paid them after that date, it would still count, right?
That's correct, because they would have paid them after the date that the funds were deposited into the account. So yes. Does that make sense?
Yeah, but on the other hand, if they, in good faith, paid people hoping they were going to get this money and then got the money, they cannot apply it backwards to that money they paid out.
That is correct, Don. Yes, they can apply it backwards.
Yeah.
I have a question for Diana, which I think would help people. You had a great suggestion that if people had good, detailed skills, they could provide maybe some accounting help or record keeping help. Are there any privacy concerns that you have and that you want to share how people can best work with somebody who's not an accountant, but maybe on their payroll to, share information that's normally not shared amongst employees?
I think I understand your question, but there are a lot of tools out there in terms of resources and, even like my Excel worksheet that I brought up, I'm happy to share that. But really people, if you're trying to do your accounting yourself, it's really time to wrap your head around it and try to understand it best. Or get help. A lot of people, if you don't have a CPA, especially if you don't have a CPA, we are not a CPA firm, but a CPA is going to be crucial both in terms of personal and business tax relief strategies and the impacts and implications of them all. So if you don't have a CPA, that's going to be the one person that you do want to invest in.
We had another question from Nola I'm sorry. And she said, are any of the current CARES Act loans available for startups?
Yes, I can take that one.
Okay,
So,
thanks, Ann.
If you had not been in business prior to June 30th of 2019, we were able to take into consideration payroll for January and half of February of 2020. If you're a startup, I don't believe you could be eligible for PPP.
That's my understanding too.
Any other questions that people have? They could put them in the chat or they could unmute themselves. Also, one of the things that Golden United is seeking, and perhaps you can provide it, is we are looking for business coaches, and we are going to have another webinar, and I want to promote that. It'll be around marketing and coming out of this, potentially looking differently, business planning and coaching. And we do have a full webinar plan next Thursday at the same time at 4 o'clock. So you're welcome to look again on the Golden United site. We'll have a Zoom link. I think the Zoom link actually is in my presentation, but there's no real easy way for you guys to grab it. So we'll send that out to all the participants here so you can participate in that. But I do mention that we are looking for other skills like CPAs, people that want to get their name out there and share with the Golden community ways of recovering from this situation that we're in. And I didn't mean to shut down any questions. I'm just wondering if there's any more that people have coming in.
I just want to give a tip, and that is if you're a sort of a retail business in Golden and you have a listing on the Visit Golden website, they would like you to update your listings about how you might be reopening in a few weeks. Any information about virtual service provision, how you might be reopening, any of that kind of thing. They actually have a separate sort of section on the Visit Golden website where you can provide that information, and those of you who meet that have an extranet account, so you can do that. So just contact Megan Pinson at Visit Golden and she can get that updated information on the website.
Thank you. I also want to make a shout out for the Chamber. We could not have pulled this off without some of their announcements of this activity. And so I want to thank the Chamber. And if you're not a member of the Chamber, you should reach out to them. And they are trying to do everything they can to help businesses survive this as well. There's almost so much information that it's overwhelming. And that's why I want to limit this to the hour so that you don't just get blown away. We will send out to all the participants a PDF summary that should be with active links. So all the things that were linked will be linked. Am I missing anything, Annie? That would be Annie Albrecht.
I don't think so, but I do want to encourage everybody to just check back regularly at goldenunited.org. We'll have updated links and schedules for webinars and other resources that are available for Golden individuals and businesses on there regularly. So just check back on that, and we'll be sharing on our Facebook and via our email newsletter as well.
And do we already have the Zoom link for the next Thursday's meeting up there?
It'll be up in about 2 seconds once I update the website. Yes.
Awesome. Okay. Well, I hope that this was useful and that you can now spread the word that Golden United is trying to reach out and help in a variety of ways. And I want to thank you again for your participation. Next week, it'll be run by Ken Jacobs, another Golden United member. But it's been a pleasure working with all of you and pulling it together. So thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Okay.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.